Veterans can opt out this weekend. Here's who the Braves need to decide if they want to keep and who they might sign in free agency. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Friday, March 20th. Your source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning baseball writer and podcaster. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can find all my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Brave Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're probably part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to fanduel.com to get started. Veterans can opt out starting this weekend, right? XXB free agents, we've talked about that on the show before. They have built-in dates to opt out of their contracts if they're not put on the 26-man roster. Other players can negotiate opt-outs as part of their deals. So let's run through the three guys that can opt out in Atlanta, and then let's talk about the guys around the league who might opt out that Atlanta can go try to sign to reinforce the lineup, the bullpen, the rotation, whatever it might be. And the first guy I want to get to is Dominic Smith, because it looks like he's going to have the largest role of any of the options that can opt out this weekend. He is a tenured major league veteran, right? He played in 63 games for the Giants last year, hit 284, 333 on base, 417 slug. It's a 111 WRC plus. His projections for this year are not nearly as good, right? Zips has him at a 244 average and a 94 WRC plus. But there is a case to be made that in platoon situations, which again, when you lost Jurickson Profar, who was going to be close to essentially a full-time DH, we're kind of looking to recreate him in the aggregate with multiple guys. Dominic Smith versus righties in the last 3 seasons has hit 262 with a 104 WRC plus. It's not groundbreaking. I acknowledge that. It's not amazing. He's drawn walks at an 8% rate in those situations. He's slugged barely, but in the 400s. He's striking out less than 20% of the time. You could do a lot worse. And so what Atlanta needs to figure out is, like, defensively, you're not getting much out of him unless you lose Matt Olson. In that case, you have bigger problems. You're also not playing Dom Smith against lefties. He has a 66 WRC plus in the last 3 seasons against left-handed pitching, albeit that's still less than a half season of at-bats, plate appearances. It's like 249 plate appearances. But it's easy to see how they could decide, hey, the whole idea here with Dominic Smith is we're going to have him to start off as the DH against righties. He's going to bat in the bottom third of the order. It feels really weird to have your DH batting in the bottom of the third. Like, literally, your only job is to hit the ball, and you're so not great at it that we have you in the bottom third of the order. But as of now, my assumption is the Braves are going to have Dominic Smith on the roster unless they can find a clear and obvious upgrade. And we're going to get to those guys in a few minutes. The next one they have to decide on is Kyle Farmer. And this is something where Farmer is, in my mind, kind of battling with Brett Wisely for that last bench spot. Farmer is in the position similar to Dom Smith, where he has what you can see as a clearly defined role based on recent performance. He would be the short side of the platoon against lefties. And what's really helpful with Kyle Farmer, as opposed to Dominic Smith, who is not really an outfielder anymore, he's really just a first baseman, is Kyle Farmer's not playing a ton of shortstop anymore, but he can still play the other infield positions, and he can fill in at short. He made starts even last year. He played 12 games at short last year, but He can play first, he can play second, he can play third, he can play it short. You could do something where, versus lefties, you can DH him, sure, or you can stick him like at second and give Ozzie a half day. You can stick him at third and you can give Austin Riley a half day. I don't think they're going to take Matt Olson out of the lineup, but like you can use him to give some of your other infielders a half day as a DH. And so like I think that's really intriguing. The last 3 seasons for Kyle Farmer, just over a half season of plate appearances, 369 plate appearances. He has a 109 WRC plus against lefties. It's important to point out, shout out to Dr. Box, premium subscriber and Discord member, for pointing out that Kyle Farmer, in the last 3 seasons, that distribution of WRC plus hasn't been the same. He was a 115 in 23, a 112 in 24, that was with Minnesota, and then he fell to a 101 with Colorado last year. The questions here, obviously, how much of that was Colorado? How much of that was the fact that he was 34 turning 35 last year? Like, is this age-related decline? Is this the environment, as in the losing team he was on? What was it? So there's a little bit of risk there. But you could see an argument where the first 2 months of the season, or however long they think it'll take to get Ha-Seong Kim back, you can see a case to carry Kyle Farmer. I think the complicating thing here with Kyle Farmer's opt-out decision is Dom Smith is kind of in a vacuum. He would play 4 out of every 5 games, probably, based on handedness. Now, they may choose to rotate different guys through, but based on handedness, the strong side of the platoon would play 75-80% of the time. For Kyle Farmer, because he would be playing less in the lineup every day, although, granted, you could use him as a pinch hitter against lefties, things like that, he's probably more closely linked to the other bench pieces as well, right? Jorge Mateo, if Jorge Mateo is the backup shortstop, which I don't think is an absolute certainty, but is probably likely. And if you're curious about that, I wrote more about that earlier this week on Braves Today. Then the one spot's probably being divided between Wisely and Farmer, right? I would assume they would trust Wisely more at shortstop, but if Mateo's on the roster, Wisely's biggest strength goes away. And so do they instead say we want Farmer for the bat, where he has been in the last 3 seasons combined above average in that specific role, the short side platoon role? Do we want him over Wisely because we have a defensive and base running option in Jorge Mateo? It's all kind of connected here, right? I still kind of have him in the on the roster until they find an upgrade category as well. And I do think if you had to prioritize one of these guys, they're probably keeping Dom Smith over Kyle Farmer simply because Dom Smith would be playing a lot more versus how much Kyle Farmer would get in the lineup just based on the opposing starter. So we'll see what they do. Again, both of these guys have the ability to opt out this weekend. Little bit of the logistics of how this works. Actually, we'll do that after the break. We'll take an early break. When we come back, we'll talk about the logistics of that, the Martín Pérez decision, and then look at the guys who will be available who could be available this weekend. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, IQ Joe mushroom-infused coffees are the delicious and low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. All of these products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit. The IQ Bar protein bars are the smarter snack choice. They have plenty of plant-derived protein, tons of fiber, no added sugar. The IQ Mix is a zero-sugar drink mix that hydrates with electrolytes to improve mood and boost clarity. And IQ Joe is a mushroom-infused instant coffee designed for mental clarity and packed with 200 milligrams of natural caffeine, plus 4 different flavors that will totally transform your morning routine. It's become a part of my daily routine, honestly. Let's start my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ bar or an IQ mix. Like, I do this, I use these things just about every day now, and I wasn't expecting that when they first sent me the package. So, right now, IQ Bar is offering Braves Today listeners 20% off of all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, which has some of everything, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Welcome back to Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. The logistics here of the opt-outs. I don't know if I've explained actually how this works. 5 days before opening day is when you're able to actually opt out. Opening day is March 25th. That's the earliest we've ever had opening day. There is one game on Netflix that night, Wednesday night. It is Yankees at Giants on Netflix. And then Thursday, the rest of the league starts. I say the rest of the league. The Braves don't play their first game until Friday. Their first game is on Friday the 27th at 7:15 p.m., but most of the rest of the league gets into play on Thursday. And typically, they like to try to give some time off either Thursday or Friday in case of rain and things like that, so that home openers can get rescheduled and all of that. Not everybody's getting it. The Angels and Astros play on back-to-back days, right? But it's a smaller slate on Thursday. It's a smaller slate on Friday than a normal Friday would be because of that desire to give guys time off and all of that, or give teams off in case of weather. So 5 days before that, and if the 25th is opening day, then you would go and you would say, okay, today is 5 days. So today is kind of when all this stuff can start. Players have to notify, eligible players who have an opt-out, have to notify teams in writing that they are triggering the opt-out clause in their minor league deals. It's kind of standard. You write a little short, like a letter kind of thing, and you can hand deliver it. A copy is usually emailed by your agent to the front office at the same time. So that way, they are notified you did do it in writing, but there's also an emailed copy to make sure that they know. And then the teams have 48 hours from today to either add you to the 26-man roster or release you to go be a free agent. They don't have to take all 48 hours, but they need to, but they have 48 hours to decide. We've already seen a couple reports about guys opting out. Dylan Moore, utility man with the Phillies, has already indicated he will opt out. Paul DeJong has indicated that he will not opt out of his Yankees deal. We'll get to all those guys in a few minutes. Under old CBAs, I kind of want to clarify because people have asked about this. Under the old CBA, teams had the ability to pay what was called a retention bonus. It was $100,000. They could pay the retention bonus to override your opt-out and keep you on a minor league deal. That is gone in the current CBA. The players negotiated this, and they said, we would rather have the ability to be released and go find a place where we can get on the field versus being given a short-term payday. I get it. The thing that baseball players want to do more so than anything else is play baseball. I understand why they would say, hey, we'll sacrifice the $100,000 if they can't stop us from opting out other than adding us to the team so we can go find a team that does want to play us. I get it. So Martín Pérez is the third one. And again, I mentioned this yesterday. I got this wrong earlier in the offseason. I was working off of an old list from the Players Association. They put out the list of XXP free agents, and then they updated it 4 or 5 different times. And I missed the update that included Martín Pérez. So that's on me. Again, apologizing for getting that wrong. But I honestly don't think that he's going to make the opening day roster. I don't know if he's going to opt out. He talked to Mark Bowman of MLB.com. He talked to Gabe Burns of the AJC. And a lot of the comments make it sound like he genuinely is impressed with the organization and wants to stay here. He did say that Alex Anthopoulos called him directly, which normally a guy on a minor league deal, Alex Anthopoulos does not call them. They're working with it's their agent, and then they're working with somebody else in the front office below Alex's level. Alex called Martín Pérez himself to talk about what he wanted from Martín Pérez and why they wanted to sign him and all of that. And that's part of the reason he's here. As impressed as he sounds with the organization, though, playing time almost always trumps your feelings. And if he's told that he's not going to make the opening day roster in place of Didier Fuentes, because I do think that 6/8 of your bullpen is already set, with Raisel Iglesias as closer, Robert Suarez as your right-handed setup, Dylan Lee as your left-handed setup, Tyler Kinley and Joel Payamps as your right-handed middle relief, and Aaron Bummer as your left-handed middle relief. And then your final 2 spots, I think Jose Suarez probably gets one of them as a lefty, long man, and spot starter. I imagine that final spot is down to Didier Fuentes as a right-handed, long man, spot starter, super impressive prospect, and Martín Pérez as a veteran, left-handed, long man, and spot starter. So there's absolutely, as of now, I want to assume Didier Fuentes is going to get that job. He may not. Alex may do that thing where he prioritizes depth over everything else by keeping both Pérez and Suarez. But it still feels to me like you've got to carry Didier Fuentes. He's been so good. I talked about it yesterday. He's been so good, you got to carry him. And so I don't know if Pérez is going to opt out or not. And the problem here, we'll get to the hitters in a minute. The problem with the pitching group that are opt-out eligible is so many of them are relievers. There's really only 2 starters that you could conceivably see becoming really only 2 starters that we're looking at as opt-out possibilities, period. The first one's Walker Buehler. One, he's likely to make the Padres roster. He's been surprisingly good in spring. They don't have a ton of really attractive options for that 5th spot on the roster. He's probably going to end up making their team as the 5th starter. I still don't think that he's going to be that good this year. He hasn't been good since he had that second Tommy John. But in spring, he does have 13 strikeouts in 11 2/3 innings. He's allowed 4 runs. He's only walked 4. He has hit 2 more guys, but he's not been bad in spring. Granted, it's opponent quality and all that stuff, but Walker Buehler probably makes the Padres. The other part of this is he's gone on the record as saying he doesn't like Atlanta. I think it comes back to when he was in LA and some of those, the 2020 playoffs and stuff. But he's gone on the record as saying he doesn't like Atlanta. He doesn't like the Atlanta Braves. So even if he were released, I don't think he would want to sign with the Braves unless he was absolutely desperate. The other guy, and if you haven't heard of him, totally fine. I stumbled upon him kind of randomly one day. Peter Lambert. Used to be with Colorado. He went to Japan, and he's back this year. He's with the Astros on a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. He's a swingman. He's not a actual starter, but I've been impressed with what he does. When he was here in the States, he was throwing 7 pitches. He's pared it down a little bit, but he's still throwing 5 or 6 pitches. He's added a sinker. He's in the mid-90s. He's got good whiff rates on his non-fastballs. And Houston is carrying an extra starter. They have Tatsuya Imai. They signed him as a free agent. We talked about that on the show. I kind of wanted the Braves to go out and grab him. And so they're looking at a 6-man rotation. Hunter Brown, Christian Javier, Tatsuya Imai, Mike Burrows, who I think was a great get from Pittsburgh. He's added some stuff too. He looks good. Lance McCullers, and then they signed Ryan Weiss out of the KBO to be a starter. So you have Imai, who's been an NPB in Japan, used to a once-a-week schedule. And you have Ryan Weiss, who's acclimating to the States after being in Korea. I totally get them rocking a 6-man rotation. But that means your bullpen is only 7 arms instead of 8. And Josh Hader's going to start on the injured list. So, Brian Abreu's your closer. Brian King, Roddery Munoz, not our Roldy Munoz, Stephen Okert, Kaiwei Ting, Christian Roa, AJ Blueball are probably all already in there. Question is, does Lambert jump over a guy like a Christian Roa or an AJ Blueball to take that final long man spot, swing man kind of spot? If not, I could see the Braves being interested in grabbing Peter Lambert and bringing him in over somebody like a Jose Suarez or whatever. The flip side of this is he was in Colorado and the Braves had opportunities to go trade for him because they scout Colorado a lot and they've made multiple deals with Colorado. Like when we got Pierce Johnson, they could have got Peter Lambert and they decided Pierce Johnson had more promise than Peter Lambert did. So I don't know if they would sign Peter Lambert, but it's a guy that I'm watching for. He's not an XXB free agent, but he does have a negotiated opt-out. It would be a lot closer to opening day. I think his opt-out's like the 23rd or 24th. So it's like last minute before opening day. This could be something where you legitimately announce the roster and then turn around and make a change the morning of opening day. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened. There are a couple relievers real quick I just want to mention very, very briefly. Lou Trevino, Tim Mazza are in Phillies camp. Hunter Strickland's in Angels camp. Ryan Brazier is in Rangers camp. I don't think any of them are going to end up either becoming available or be guys that the Braves want to look at, but you never know. In just a minute, let's talk about the hitters available. There are legitimately some promising names here. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Grand Slam Getaways. If you've dreamt of the ultimate baseball road trip, this is the company for you. Grand Slam Getaways has bucket list bus trips designed for Braves fans who love the game and want to travel in style and comfort. Personally, I think a parent-child summer adventure would be a great way to do this, but just if you're retired, also a good summer vacation. You're just a baseball nut, other good summer vacation. All these trips depart from Atlanta in Wi-Fi motor coaches with a bathroom in it and all of that. You get field level tickets, 3-star hotels, daily breakfast, a full slate of ballparks, and more. Each of these trips has at least 2 Braves road games. There's appearances by former MLB players, giveaways, side trips to places like the Louisville Slugger Museum, the Bull Durham filming locations, and more. So reserve your spot now with a small deposit. Go to grandslam-getaways.com to make this summer a grand slam. Again, grandslam-getaways.com to let the baseball adventure begin. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. The thing to know about these hitters, there are hitters available. There are guys who are not bad hitters available. But these are all kind of incremental upgrades, right? Braves Today sponsor FanDuel has regular season home run odds for 51 different hitters. None of these guys are on that list. None of these guys are on the MVP lists. Like, none of these guys are award candidates. None of these guys are expected to be massive producers, right? None of the pitchers I mentioned have strikeout odds on the board, right? These are all kind of marginal upgrades. But given the timing of what happened with Jurickson Profar, the best you can do right now is marginal upgrades. The first one is Michael Conforto. He signed just a couple days before Jurickson Profar got popped on a minor league deal with the Cubs. He is a lefty, just like Mike Yastrzemski, but Conforto in the last 3 years has been better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. Against lefties, he has hit .250 with a 110 WRC plus in the last 3 seasons. Against righties, he has hit .219 with a 95 WRC plus and a slugging under 400. So yes, he's a left-handed outfielder, just like Mike Yastrzemski, but he is better in the opposite platoon situation from Yastrzemski. The thing is, I don't know if he's going to come available. Tyler Austin was signed by the Cubs, and he is now out with a knee injury. So there's kind of a void at reserve outfielder and DH. They do also have Dylan Carlson in camp as a non-roster invitee. My question is they also have Chas McCormick formerly of the Astros. So my question is, like, do they carry two of these guys? Moises Ballesteros is going to be the primary DH. He's a backup catcher. He's a lefty hitter as well. So, like, Carlson being a switch hitter, Miguel Amaya is your backup catcher, Matt Shaw is an infielder who's played a little bit of outfield, but, like, he's not great at short. They have options here, right? Nico Horner could kick over to short to cover for Dansby Swanson if he misses time, and Shaw can go at second, right? Do they keep one infielder on the roster, including, or on the one infielder on the bench? One infielder on the bench who's not a true shortstop, and then carry two more outfielders, which would give them five? Or do they carry Shaw, one of Carlson, Conforto, McCormick, and then try to have some sort of backup shortstop? They have Scott Kingery in camp. They have prospect Jefferson Rojas in camp. What's the plan here? Curious. So Conforto may come available. We don't know. Austin Slater. He is signed with Detroit. He's battling with Jamani Jones to make the roster. He's not been bad against lefties, 119 WRC plus in his career. He's hitting well in spring, but Jamani Jones is outperforming him in spring and is already on the 40-man roster. I think of these two guys, Austin Slater is more likely to come available than Jamani Jones would. If you sign Austin Slater, that's probably going to be the roster spot that Kyle Farmer would have had. I think you probably still have Dom Smith as your right-handed hitting DH, or your righty-mashing DH, and then Slater is, in essence, taking Mike Yastrzemski's place. Maybe you DH him and you let Eli White play. We got to figure that whole thing out there. I mentioned Dylan Moore earlier. He did let Philly know that he is opting out. I kind of assumed he was going to make the roster. He's a really good defender. He's the only thing that stopped Mauricio Dubon from winning 3 consecutive utility Gold Gloves. He won the American League Gold Glove for utility players 2 seasons ago. But when you look at, like, they had a suspension. Johan Rojas was suspended 80 games. I think it was for PEDs. And so their bench is like Otto Kemp, Edmundo Sosa, Rafael Marchand, and then who? I assumed it was going to be Dylan Moore. Their outfield is already pretty bad, right? Brandon Marsh trying to get a reclamation of Adolis Garcia, prospect Justin Crawford at center. Moore would at least give them a good defender to stick in the outfield where they need to do something like that. Although Edmundo Sosa is not bad out there. The first time he played the outfield against Atlanta, he robbed a home run off of somebody and left. This one, the big competition, the two big pieces of competition here, Gabriel Rincones is on the 40-man roster. He's one of their prospects. And then Brian De La Cruz, former Braves legend Brian De La Cruz, is in camp as an NRI, and he's not looked terrible. I can't imagine keeping De La Cruz over Moore, but they may decide that, like, hey, we have we need to go get the power of Brian De La Cruz over Dylan Moore. I don't think Moore is going to be available. If he is available, if he does come free, I think the Braves would probably jump on Dylan Moore to fill the Dubon role of utility glove that can hit lefties. He has low batting averages against everybody. He's just not a good, like, contact guy. But against lefty pitching, 110 WRC plus and a 12.3% career walk rate. So he's performed in that opposite of Mike Yastrzemski role. You could throw him in left field, and you could pull Yastrzemski out against lefties. You could DH Dylan Moore, put Eli White out there. Like, you've got options with him. The last guy I want to look at, Mike Tauchman. He's not an XXB free agent, but he has a March 25th opt-out date. So, like, literally right at opening day. He is in Mets camp battling with prospect Carson Bench to be the right fielder. Now, MJ Melendez, the former catcher from the Royals, who's now an outfielder, was in camp. They optioned him to the minors already. So Tauchman's at least a finalist here. Tyrone Taylor is still on their roster. Offensively, he's not that great, but he's a really good defender. And then Brett Baty is now a utility player instead of just being a third baseman. That's the remaining competition here. I could see Binge making the opening day roster. I could also see them wanting to go with a veteran in Tauchman over Carson Binge, especially if Binge, I honestly have not seen him in spring. I don't know how well he's playing. If they let Tauchman go and they say Binge has the job, Tyrone Taylor and Brett Baty are the backups here. Tauchman's a solid hitter, 111 WRC plus, no platoon split to speak of, 111 against lefties, 111 against righties. He also doesn't have a lot of power. Career 380 slug, 30 career stolen bases. Remember, he's 35. And his single season high is just 7. He's a contact and walk driven profile. A little bit risky. You're not getting a ton of impact here, but a guy that would at least be able to give you batting average and give you somebody on base for the rest. He's probably also batting in the bottom third, just like everybody else is. Again, that's probably at the expense of Kyle Farmer. Although what that does is that makes it harder for you to give time off or half days to Ozzie Albies, to Austin Riley, because Farmer can play those and Tauchman can't. A couple other guys to watch that I think are going to make their rosters, but just in case, Randall Grichuk of the Yankees, Adam Frazier, both infielder and outfielder for the Angels. I think he's going to be the starting second baseman there, now that Christian Moore's been optioned down, one of their top prospects. And Andrew McCutchen of the Rangers. We talked about Kutch. Do the Braves try to bring him in as a DH after the Profar suspension? Apparently, he was already in discussions with the Rangers when the Profar suspension happened. So this isn't like a drop the ball and that kind of thing. That deal was already in the works and just hadn't been announced yet. Either way, I expect there to be some sort of ad made by the Braves between now and opening day. That they're going to make some sort of change simply because there's no really great options here. The options you have aren't great. There's no great options out there on the market, but you can make incremental changes. And the whole thing here really is just be flexible. The Profar suspension is official, so you've saved that money from this year. If you need to take on a bad contract, you can do that. I argued right after the Profar thing was done, you could go get Jorge Soler to be a DH, an occasional left fielder or something. It doesn't look like they're looking to do that, but absent some sort of significant trade, you're not going to meaningfully upgrade at DH this late in the cycle. But I do think you could sign some guys that could give you more flexibility than you have with Dom Smith or Kyle Farmer and could make the offense a little bit better. I just don't see anybody that would come out of the bottom 3 in the lineup. This has been Braves Today for Friday, March 20th. Do me a favor. You're listening on audio. 5-star review would be great. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, we drop the next episode, shorts, all that good stuff. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.